Welcome back to Kin in Line. This is part 44, and the date on this drawing, which I've signed in a strange way, is the 23rd of June 1981. So I had about a week to go until I'd completed my 2 years national service. So here we have a guy, that friend of ours, Solly, with those are crutches behind him. And as we'll see in the next drawing, Solly managed to get himself a broken leg or something just before he cleared out, which was always a good thing to do. You know, you could then avoid doing standing guard and all sorts of things. And here we have him actually with his leg in a plaster cast. Good old Sol. Also drawn on the same military issue paper is notice how at some point the light has affected this paper. Quite a nice sketch really, I think, here. It was always important just to get the face done. You could kind of work out a way of completing the drawing, the rest of the body, but you had to really focus on the face, the head, get that over, and then just improvise to complete the drawing. Here we're back in lined paper. So earlier on in my thing, so as I did say, these drawings are a bit muddled after 40 years of storing them and taking them apart and trying to make a book out of them and so forth. Here's another drawing of a drawing of, so yeah, this is kind of one of those infinity things where I'm actually sketching myself, sketching that view. So one could take this back forever. This is inside that media center. This dude was the Commandant, the head of the whole damn thing there. Can't remember his name, but I once or twice was made to go on orders in front of him. On the one occasion, they actually said that I'd been mentioned in dispatches for work I'd done at the media center, just some flow charts that they needed desperately for some course they were giving, and I spent the whole weekend doing this, created these wonderful, colorful things, only for them to discover a few months later that they could have bought something at the CNA, which would have worked just as well. But anyway, this is Major, what was his name? Yeah, interesting character. You can see they used to call these blobs on top of the officers epaulets. What was it? Bird crap or something. They were sort of a yellowy color, and that's how the disrespect a lot of people had for these officers. So that's that with that pile of drawings, and I've just found this old drawing book, and we're going to go way back in time. So I did have a girlfriend briefly who rode horses, and I accompanied her on one occasion to a place where she rode her horse. And I did a few sketches. This was, I think, still while at art school, just before the army. And yeah, everything's going to be higgledy-piggledy here. Do you even get drawing books with tracing paper in them, I wonder, today? So there at least I was sketching, you know. This might have been in the 6 months before I left in July 79. I had to go off and play soldiers because I don't have much assurance here, but, you know, this was clearly me trying to come to terms with sketching. And here would have been either her or one of the other people at the riding school. But we're back to these flimsy drawings of my art school days, I think. Just fitted that one's head in. That's not a bad drawing of a horse, I guess. Now this, yeah, similar period just before I went to the army or while I was in it. And this is a view across the Bonsabay River to this thick forested sort of back of sand dunes there. I think these figures here just suggested might have been sucking mud prawns. And I remember this, we're also at the parking bay at the Bonsabay Beach. 2 cars, one Volkswagen with its hood open, its bonnet. And I think there's another done at the same time. I must have gone, excuse me. So if you walk from Bonsabay towards Kanubi, there's very tall sand dunes en route, about a half a kilometre from Bonsabay. And if you look out, which I did, I climbed the dune and then looked back towards Nahoon Reef, which is that point you can see there. It's a world famous surfing spot. Bonsabay is tucked away in there, there. And that's Nahoon Reef, and that's Nahoon Beach back there. So this was such a scenic place for me to grow up, you know, and I'm glad I have a record here in drawings, but not much has probably changed in this view. And it's always good to get some people in the picture just to give it a human scale. Over here we got 2 guys with, I think, a fishing rod at the Bonsabay Beach. So that's a dune on the left, just suggested, with the river, and you can actually see a wave about to break there. And this is Chawe. It's the only picture I've got of the barman who was such a good friend to us as young white males. And Chawe used to, he just brought African traditions alive for us. I mean, he would bless our drinks before we went drinking in his pub. And it was a very memorable time. He would often pop into our house, which is just up the road from the Bonsabay Hotel. This again is at that parking place where a bit of the river was reclaimed at Bonsabay. And this looks like one of those citrons, those old citrons that had the hydraulic suspension or whatever. And I quite like the way I've drawn this guy, sort of weird sort of head and shortened legs. And then, and interesting, we've got 2 of my old mates. That's Peter Marsden at the top. I can just see him. You know, he sadly also died in the Transkei, murdered actually. Tragic. He had escaped the army and gone to live there and lived for his surfing, and he was a vegetarian and actually used to wear almost tribal Xhosa clothes. And then somebody tried to steal his car, and in the process he was murdered. And this is Julian Jackson, whose dad, Peter, ran the Bonsabay Pharmacy for like decades. A Beaconhurst Pharmacy. So JJ, I don't know what became of him. I see that even then I was attempting to do the odd sketch of windsurfers. This was probably at Wanzaway. So this must have started not quite soon after, around about this period, because I don't remember them in the 60s. Yeah, so let's leave it at that with this bearded monster. And looks like a woman with a child. And we'll see you next time. Cheers.